Mustang, it's broadcast. I know you can hear me right now. Your radiation tracker is on a ship 300 kilometers from Lycos, but I know you're still there. What are you on about? Mustang, I'll say it again. What are you playing at? Slag this. Savro, she's not on the ship. She's still in Lycos. Something is wrong. You better get back fast, like. Who knows what kind of spoilers we're dealing with here.
One of my furies led me to suspect the sons of Ares are perhaps something different than we imagined.
Mortals who climb die 1,000 times.
Exalt the honor.
Then let us rise together. By the scepter, be you the sword. It's always been me, Blue. Rise, man of Mars, and take with you my wrath.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hail Reaper. My name is Philip, and this is my good friend Jeremy. How's it going?
It's going prime, my goodman.
You gave me a nice little smile when I said, this is my good friend Jeremy.
I like being called your good friend.
Yeah, you're not a host. You're a good friend.
Thank you. I don't want to be a host.
I don't often refer to us as hosts. We're just good friends.
That's just it.
That's it.
We're just
That's all
good
it needs
friends
to
having
be.
a conversation.
Yeah, exactly. That's all the Hail Reaper is. This is part one of our season finale, this episode today. And next week will be the end of season 2. We did it. It's crazy.
It's nuts. It's already here. I can't believe it. It seems like it flew by.
It did. It was like, what, 10, 12 weeks that we did this, over somewhere in there. And yeah, we're gonna be coming up with more content soon. We're actually not going to go away like we did the end of last season, where we kind of disappeared for the greater part of 3 months because I was having a baby. So that kind of needed to happen. And just a lot of things. Christmas time was around. It just was kind of a really busy time. But Jeremy and I and Mathr, we're going to be back pretty soon after that season finale. We're not going to be just disappearing off the radar.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad we're going to be kind of following it up with some things. And ultimately, I just can't wait to get into Morningstar.
Oh, dang. I'm so excited for Morningstar season 3. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be great.
For now, we're going to be living inside the Gala today. So let's go.
Let's do it.
When I visit the Gala scene, the one thing I'm so impressed by is that Pierce Brown has built this protagonist, Darrow, to be such an incredible character. And inside the Gala, chapters 11 and 12 of Golden Sun, you just see the amalgam of all that Darrow is. You see his intelligence, you see his cunning, you see his audacity, you see his savagery, and on top of that, you see his compassion. And within all of that, inside all that too, you see and feel and experience how lost he is. Because you said this at the beginning of our season. Darrow is a lost soul in this book.
Yes.
And that does not escape, not in this scene even. Like, he's still struggling and searching to find his identity and who he is. But Pierce Brown puts everything on display, all within the confines of just these 2 chapters. And it's the single note that resonates with me the most when I visit the Gala. And it's a scene that I put on my audiobook all the time just to get pumped, because I love it. I love being here. I love being with this character. I love the experience of the Gala as a reader. What's that singular thing for you? Like, what do you kind of go back to? What draws you into the Gala scene?
Yeah, I like the way you put that. I really think Darrow is an amalgam. I think if you look at all these lessons he's learned up to this point, such characters as Dancer or EO or Mustang have taught him up to this point. This is what he moves forward in. And you asked me how I would put it, and I would echo that, but I would put it in coming into his own. Mm-hmm. At first, he really is a product of these other people. He's living out EO's dream. He's acting out Mustang's strategy, and he's really an Ares soldier. It's only in this moment does he actually take the helm. He starts driving that ship in another direction, and he judges that situation for himself, decides that this is not the best course of action, and he becomes the shot caller in this moment. And this is, I feel, in my opinion, this is the first time he really does that and really becomes the shot caller and really just starts driving it in his own superior way.
It's interesting you brought up Dancer. I didn't expect you to, but I actually have a note here for myself that I wanted to bring up Dancer, and it's something I hypothesized back in, I think the third episode we ever did of Hail Reaper was about Dancer. And we were talking about Dancer's best quotes in the first book. And I love Dancer. Everyone that listens to Hail Reaper should know that is a character I have a lot of affinity for. But he has this quote that still resonates with me, and I feel like it's really true here. And I hypothesized on that episode, if Dancer didn't say this in Red Rising, would we have got a different outcome here? And that quote is something to the effect of, I'm paraphrasing, an empire cannot be destroyed from without till it's destroyed from within. What if that wasn't spoken? What if that wasn't something that Darrow internalized and learned? We might have had a completely different outcome in this specific scene. But that's who Darrow is, and that's what Pierce Brown is doing. He's connecting the old red Darrow to this new gold Darrow. And you can kind of see this bridging, these gaps that are kind of going all the way back to the very beginning of book one.
Absolutely.
And they're coming together in this Golden Sun era of this book, or this story, excuse me. And now Darrow is having to use something different. What he's used his entire time, his entire journey, is his rage. His rage is the thing that fuels him to go forward and to push. And now he has to use his lessons. And he also has to use focus. It's something that Darrow doesn't do very well. Like,
No.
honestly, like, he's not a perfect character. He's kind of flawed at times. And the one flaw he has is that the focus that he's always had is through Io or through Mustang. But now he's doing this alone. And so he can't use them as the proxy focus. He has to do it all internally. I love that you get a different spin on this character we've had so far. It's not about emotion anymore. It's about that focus and that drive and harnessing it and pushing through. And like that, again, is one of the things I love so much about Darrow in this scene.
Yeah, you really do get to experience just that mental anxiety and that stress that is really pushing on him as he waffles in his mind as to whether or not he needs to move forward, to your point, with rage and blow up, what is it, 2,000
Peerless.
Yeah, of the elite Peerless. And he ultimately obviously decides, as we've been talking about, not to do that. You know, in my mind, I actually think that although, you know, Darrow is completely autonomous in this moment, thinking through his own logic, I actually think that Mustang is the one that tips him over the point. I'm not saying she changes his mind completely, but if you read through, it isn't until he really sees her and goes through the mental anguish of realizing that she's with Cassius and being kind of prodded on by Karnas in this moment, that he really makes the decision not to do it. And I think, to back up my point, I'd actually take you to some really interesting dialogue that Pierce writes.
Do it.
So he writes, and this is in context of if he decides to blow it up, Victra vanishes, Cassius evaporates, Augustus melts, Karnas dissolves, and Mustang dies. It's amazing, these words, vanishes, evaporates, melts, dissolves. These are like, I mean, vanishes, Victra, you know, they're kind of friends, they're homies at this point, so it's not such a bad word. But evaporates, melts, dissolves, these are like disrespectful. These are violent terms. These are aggressive terms used for that. But the one he uses for Mustang is dies. That's like a dignified word, I think, when compared to the other words. And you really see that he still sees Mustang in this lineage, like we've talked about her in context of Io. His original love, going back to the Red Mines, extends through Mustang as a proxy. And you just still see this connection and this ultimate love that I believe tipped him over the edge and just keeps him from being allowed to kill her.
I was thinking yesterday, I was skateboarding around the local college here, and I was like listening to this on audiobook, and I'm thinking, what if he blew everyone up? What if he did that? What if he just said, break the chains, and the Pegasus bomb explodes and 2,000 people just die in a second? Like, they vanish, they melt, they disintegrate, they dissolve, all those more vulgar terms rather than permits like death.
Like aside from a shorter series?
A shorter series for certain.
Yeah.
But what if it happened? What if he did it? And I was thinking it would go so against who Darrow was built to be by his teachers, by Io, by Mustang, and by Dancer. And Dancer says, we're empire breakers, not terrorists. To blow everyone up is a pure terrorist act. That's all it is. That's all it is just being a terrorist. But to change and to pivot is to be an empire breaker, to go in and create that civil war, create that discord that permeates gold from this point forward is a much harder decision, but it's worth doing because Dancer, again, is this teacher that taught him this is how we do things. We don't just blow things up. That's against the grain of what we're about. But what if he did? What if he took that terrorist path? I think what you end up is a much lonelier story. You don't get the Telemanus family. You never see Victor's arc. You never see the push and pull dynamics between Adrius, Mustang, Roke. They all just go with it. And then essentially what happens is this story is basically Darrow on the run from the remaining peerless because there's still thousands out there. And that's all it is. And he's just trying to cobble together friends to help with that, as opposed to using the friends that he already has, allies he already has, people that are around him that care about him and love him are already there with him. Victor is already there. The Telemanus family is already quick and ready to serve and to be a part of his army. Like, it'd be depressing. And you're right, it would be a much shorter story too. But it is Mustang. It always goes back to her. Everything flows from her. The atmosphere changes as soon as she's seen by Darrow in that room. He goes and takes that break and has to recollect everything that's on the line in that moment. So Mustang is just a great character. I know she's your favorite character, but she just unlocks something. Her presence just alone unlocks something in Darrow that is so fantastic.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what you said, that is why she is my favorite character, is moments like this. You know, I always envisioned it as a bit of a suicide bombing, but I suppose it kind of is unsaid where he could have some sort of timing mechanism and get out of there. But there's also a chance that he would have been right in that explosion and the entire series would have ended right then and there.
Exactly. Well, let's go and talk about the most exciting part of this whole Gala scene after the break.
Hailed Reaper is brought to you this week by Torigian Law. If you're seeking legal counsel or you're in a situation that you're not sure how to handle, Torigian Law might just be the answer. They offer a free consultation to assess your situation because not every attorney is the right professional for the job. The great thing about Torigian Law is that there's no doublespeak, no confusing language, no upfront commitment. It's just a conversation with someone who wants to understand what you're going through and help you get to the next step. Getting started is easy. Just call 559-627-5399 or visit torigianlaw.com. That's TORIGIANLAW.com. No matter the circumstance, we all deserve peace of mind. So stop sitting with the uncertainty and get the advice you need today. That's TORIGIANLAW.com or call 559-627-5399. Torigian Law. The advice you need, minus the BS.
Jeremy, at the top of the episode, we're pretty much just inside chapter 11, but now we're going to transfer into chapter 12, Blood for Blood. This is the scene in which we get the duel, the infamous duel. If you talk to someone about Red Rising and maybe like you're just finding out like, hey, you've read that book before, or you read that series before, this is one of the first scenes that people usually reference with you is the duel between Cassius and Darrow. And it's exciting. It's freaking so well written. And it's just so fun to be inside of. For you though, what's the thing that like really kind of sets you off? What takes you there?
Yeah, the Gala is certainly a favorite, and for good reason. The Gala to me isn't just about the amazing action. It is those things. It's an amazing sword fight. It is Darrow stomping around and breaking things, but there's also just this amazing tightness and this strain that's built up by Darrow. You have to realize that we already talked about how he's choosing a different path. He's not blowing it all up, but instead he's dismantling from within and trying to reform society to build something better. He does it through kind of this stressing relationships of major characters. I mean, this is by far not the easy way to go.
No.
Because he's supposed to rise through society by making alliances and being kind of brought to the forefront by those alliances, by those figures of power. And in this moment, he's kind of dashing all of that and choosing a different path. If you think about figures like Octavia, right? I like the call to Octavia because in the lift, they talk about politics, and Nero says everything is politics here on Luna. And then he goes to Octavia and he starts playing politics. He actually starts setting up the Oracle game before it even happens here and backing Octavia into a corner by forcing her to say certain things, to turn on certain allies, and to make relationships awkward amongst these families. If you look at Sons of Ares, he's an agent of them, and yet, as far as he's concerned, he's defying their orders completely.
Yeah, he's stepping out.
He also has another alliance with Adrius, and he's double-crossing him in this moment. This is not what they talked about. And he even looks over to him, and I think he's surprised that he gets the nod of affirmation to go forward. I think he's looking for this look of disdain from him. Another character we see in this moment is Pliny. And this character...
Pliny. Pliny.
He isn't talked about...
so insufferable. I'm sorry. I have to put my... I hate this character so much.
Everybody does,
top
I think.
5 least favorite character. Hands down in that top 5.
Absolutely.
Okay, keep going. I'm sorry.
No, it's a good call out. I'm glad you said that because I think a lot of people feel that. But even with those same emotions, you have to acknowledge that Pliny is very powerful.
Yes.
He is in the ear of one of the most powerful people in all of society. And with that, with all those games he plays, comes a ton of power. And Darrow is slapping him across the face in this moment and defying him and his plan to not assume that this conspiracy will actually grow and that he will have a hit or some sort of death call out on his head from Pliny himself would be foolish to think that's not going to happen. And I think my favorite in this moment is Mustang, because Darrow is, I think, ultimately giving her up in this moment. He loves her that much. It's like, do you love her enough to let her go kind of thing. It's a trope that's a little gooey, but that's okay. He knows that she's going to revile him for these actions right in this moment. And in order to meet his end goal, he does it anyway. And I really do think, I know it doesn't end that way, which is fantastic. I'm glad. But yeah. I think he's kind of like, you know what? The dream, the goal, and what I need to get done to free the Reds is more important than Mustang's love. So I can just let her go in this moment. And I think, obviously, we can just do this about every single character. But the point here is that each individual character, it's almost seems like the wrong move he's making. But it's really just the harder move he's making in order to achieve the right goal in the end.
You and I see the duel very differently. You see it with all these you see it as politics, is basically what you said. If I were to sum up everything you just said, which is great, by the way, the duel is politics. And Darrow is playing that political game in a duel to the death, which is insane. But that's who Darrow is. Darrow he's full of audacity, and he's just willing to just go for it. When I go in and I'm inside this chapter and I'm in chapter 12 and I'm reading it or listening to it, either way, I just get super pumped and I'm just like, this is awesome. And I revert back to a kid. I revert back to feeling like I'm like watching like an old Disney movie or reading, my parents are reading me a story time, like bedtime story of like the hero versus the hero's ultimate rival. And it's just a badass sword fight. And that's all I need it to be. I don't need it to be anything else. I just want it to be fun and engaging and like merciless and crazy and chaotic and savage. And that's what Darrow is. He steps up this game. It's so funny though, how Darrow's external actions don't match his internal dialogue with you, the reader, at this point. Like he's kind of telling you, the reader, or kind of to himself, obviously, that he's like, I don't really want to do this, but this is just the mask I have to put on in order to sow chaos and discord and create this civil war. And he's like, just a little bit longer. He's even reminding himself a little bit longer, like push more buttons here to make this explode eventually. So like, I'm going to drag this out and make it kind of like a show, essentially. That's what he's doing, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And you were hinting toward this, but he does. He laments the character that he's having to play in this moment. He doesn't want to be that bad guy, but he ultimately knows the necessity of it. And this is, again, we like to do this, but we point out the brilliance of Pierce in his writing, because it is politics. It is family strife and that fighting for power. And it fulfills that for me. But at the same time, it's a freaking fun sword fight.
Yeah.
And it fulfills that. And they're standalone, but they also work in conjunction with each other. And I don't think that would be easy to do. I certainly could never do it.
It hits on all those levels, and it gives you that deeply visceral feeling of, watching an old Disney fairy tale kind of thing where it's like the hero versus the rival. And then there's also, it's like there's a tapestry of politics at play all at once. And it's really cool.
Exactly.
So well executed. That's why when you connect with someone over Red Rising, or at least the original trilogy, this is one of the first things that comes up. It's just these two chapters, and especially the duel itself. It's Cassius's versus Darrow. Like, what could be greater than that at this point in the story? Nothing could be better than that at this point in the story. I want to do something a little different than we normally do. I want to pivot to kind of talking about some individual quotes and individual moments, because within this greater scene, there's so much to explore or talk about. And I just want to highlight like a quote and a moment, a piece, and just kind of talk about those just briefly. So, Jeremy, what's your favorite quote from this entire kind of gala like scene?
All right, so my favorite quote is Julia Albolona, and
just laughed. Oh my gosh!
I know.
I was like, wait, what?
And I love it in the audiobook. I love the voice that TGR gives Julia, especially in this moment when she yells, kill him now. And for me, I immediately think of this great parallel to the David and Goliath story. I mean, here you have the Philistine Goliath calling to the Israelites to send their greatest champion. They're going to settle these two clans warring without a whole lot of casualties, just by putting forth their two greatest champions, just like Darrow and just like Cassius.
Yeah.
It's a winner take all kind of thing. I mean, they're basically saying that the winner between Philistine and Israelite, the other one will be subjugated in slavery to that clan. I think there's a good parallel here. I mean, it's not immediate subjugation, but you're again, that's what gold society is. It's I have power over you, I have authority, and I'm above you. And that's really what they're warring for here. And just like in the story of David and Goliath, the second David beheads Goliath and it's over, instead of going, okay, well, you win, I guess we're slaves. Nope, it erupts into chaos, right?
Yeah.
They start jamming. It turns into like the original war it was supposed to be. And the moment when Julia yells, kill him now, it's a very similar thing. I mean, they're supposed to have this great sword fight with these rules and honor, but the second it ends, it's like, nope, the circle closes in. It's just a brawl. And I love it.
Dissolves into chaos. Okay, so my favorite moment from that, shout out to my guy Tactus.
Oh boy.
Oh dude. This is so graphic, but it just it feels so good, because Cagney Albolona earlier in the story is just insufferable, and she gets cut clean in half by Tactus when they're kind of charging against each other.
Is she in the bottom 5 with Pliny?
No, she's not. She's not in the book enough to be in the bottom 5, but
Okay,
she is kind of a douche for sure. But she's barely there, so I can't say she's bottom 5. I do like the parallel that you created with David and Goliath. I think that's incredibly apt. As far as a favorite quote for me, I have 2, but I actually left it up to this last second to figure out which one I was going to want to talk about more. But I think I'm more in line of this one. Even in the midst of my rage, I feel shame. Feel the horror of being the man who comes from the dark to savage a family. It's just Darrow's internal dialogue. And again, it's funny because in this moment, you wouldn't ever describe Darrow as a compassionate person, but in a way he is. Like, he's feeling shame. That emotion that's being expressed by him internally is not matching, again, his outward kind of nature of, just hacking Cassius, like slowly, and just making him look like a moron. And then also, there's this one moment, and I love when Darrow does this. He does this a couple times in the series. He maniacally laughs while he's actually doing something that's just crazy. Like, he's like, I'm laughing madly, as he's just nailing Cassius, like, and making his Aegis explode, because he hits it so hard with his razor, his Aegis explodes. But in conjunction with that, you also have a character that's saying, I feel bad about this. It's like, who is this person? Like, this person is
strange
so
duality.
real. Yeah, because that's what people are. They're full of duality. They're full of facets. They're not just one note. And it kind of goes back to my original point of like what I love so much about the Gala is I like spending time with Darrow. And this is the scene that I get so much of him and so much sides of him. And that quote kind of unlocks everything there too. Jeremy, let's talk about your favorite single moment of the Gala scene. What's that?
I think this one I may share with quite a few people. It's Darrow in low grav, jumping 30 feet, landing on the table, crushing plates under boot, and it climaxes and knocking over the wine decanter into Cassius's lap. This is great, and it kind of harkens back to, throw politics aside and it's pure action, it's pure fun. It shares some of that staccato rhythm. It's like staccato light because it doesn't do it a whole lot, but there are some words in there where Pierce writes Darrow's dialogue in that manner. You just start feeling that anxiety, that pressure build. You have your pulse. You start feeling it in your temple right alongside with Darrow as he walks over there. And I think at the same time as just being fun, it just continues to show frailty, the same frailty of the Gold Society that we talked about in a previous episode, which, by the way, on listening to this multiple times, I realized that Pierce actually uses the word frailty in this passage as well. If Golds really are these elite beings that have been perfected through hundreds of years of genetics and natural selection, they shouldn't be bothered by such small slights, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when I think about it, it's like, who cares if someone kicks over some wine into your lap? Do you really have to start a war between houses because you've been slighted so slightly? And it makes,
Slighted so slightly, huh?
yeah, that's not a great way of putting it, I suppose. But it actually takes me back to thinking about Romeo and Juliet with the Montagues and the Capulets, and the same kind of thing happening over a scene where someone bites their thumb at the other one, and they're kind of just throwing these jabs, and it's like, it's the equivalent of flipping somebody off, right? And it's just like, really? Someone gives you the bird, so you're going to start a house war? It's kind of immature and ridiculous.
And that's your favorite moment, not because of Darrow's actions, but because of how frail everything is?
It's both. I mean, Darrow's actions are fun. There is that element to it. But again, we talk about that duality, right? Pierce being able to write both sides of it. In this scene, I appreciate both sides coming together of just showing how ridiculous Gold Society is. And at the same time, just the badassness of Darrow.
I love that badassness. For sure. It's a great moment. It's a highlight of the scene. The speech that he gives is amazing and fun. And the command that he has over the room of 2,000 peerless elites. He's like, may I have your attention? And he's like, do I have your attention? And it's like, and he even says in turn, like, yes, I do. Like, he knows it. Like, he gets it. And it goes back to that audacity that Darrow has. That does any other character have what he has in that moment? Or like, I mean, I don't know.
Several probably comes the closest.
Several comes really close in a few moments. But
I think Darrow owns it.
Yeah, he has that. He has something that no other character can really do. I want to talk about my favorite moment from this whole scene.
Yes.
Okay, this is the big one. Are you guys ready? You guys aren't ready. Okay. I think most people usually love this, and they love the satisfaction it grants them. I mean, it's a quote. I got to read it because it doesn't do justice just to talk about it. My whip coils around his extended right arm. I press the button that makes the razor contract, and with the sound of a frozen tree branch cracking in winter, I claim the sword arm of Cassius Albellona.
Yes.
The satisfaction that I had, I was throwing air punches. I just was so amped by this, and I felt the weight of Darrow lift in a moment. The blood feud that Cassius initiated back at the last day of the Institute, that was a year and a half ago almost to this point. And for me as a reader, it had only been a week, but I felt that year plus along with Darrow. I was waiting for that revenge because, as we all know, Cassius stuck him in the stomach with the iron blade and almost killed him. And when Darrow returns to House Mars at the end of Red Rising, he wants to hug Cassius. Now he's here, not necessarily doing this because he wants to. Regardless, he gets that satisfaction. And for us readers, it was so deeply gratifying. We get the tree branch snapping in half, the arm just completely falling off, and it's his sword arm. That means a lot.
Yeah, it's so much better that it's his right arm.
But as much as I love this moment, it doesn't pay off the way you might want it to. Because Cassius still lives. And what I wanted in that moment, I wanted Cassius to die. I wanted the blood feud to be over. I wanted that revenge for Darrow. But that's not what Golden Sun is. This war that's happening right here in this Gala scene, this pure moment of chaos, where you're experiencing houses hunt and kill each other. Bellona and Augustus are now rushing forward. Cagney gets cut in half. Leto dies, and it becomes this deadly game of hide and seek. But instead of children, warriors with deadly swords. It becomes strange and unfamiliar and gross. Because this book isn't about those victories. Golden Sun doesn't offer you a lot of that. Every little win that you think you get actually leads to more hardship. And it leaves Darrow searching. And the Gala creates all these insane push and pull dynamics with the surrounding characters. With Roke, Mustang, Adrius, Nero, and so many others. Golden Sun is not about victory. Golden Sun, in one word, is tension.
Catacomb Pliny.